Well, it's time to kick off another episode of Hermitcraft. I've been hanging out on a boat that we now have, checking out the amazing views of the area, and the not so amazing views. I don't know what's up with this, but check it out. Hermitcraft now has a steamboat. The design and architecture of this place is just amazing to wander around and check out the detail and how it's all put together. Somewhere in here, I think it's underneath these stairs, I noticed like there were particle effects coming through. There's actually like this going on, so it's officially a steamboat, which is so really cool. The steam then turns these uh, paddles? Damn my ignorance, I don't know exactly what they're called. But yes, this thing just popped up in the water and I saw a lot of hermits discussing, saying, who built this? Where did it come from? It looks so damn good. So I'm sure by the time this episode comes out, you'll all know who built this, so please let me know in a comment down below. It's such a stunning build, I am really impressed with it. It just looks amazing out here on the Hermitcraft Lake, which really kind of like needs its own name. But anyway, here at the beginning of this episode, we're going to avoid you. Actually, I kind of fancy that banner of yours. When you set them on fire, though, be sure to put out the fire, because you don't want the item dropping onto it and getting destroyed. Let's show them how it's done. Come on, buddy. There we go. Got myself the banner. Well, before I was rudely interrupted, I was stating that I was coming over here to Impulse's building once again. Look at me, I'm a bit of a sorry sight right now, but I am here because I want to make myself a golden cap for when we go into the nether. I'm thinking that it's possibly this episode we start doing a little bit of the old netherite grind and upgrading some of our tools, and I was thinking about which is the best piece of armor to choose. Well, this is the cheapest, second to the boots, but the boots have a lot of enchantments that you'd then need to carry over to this one. And since I've got blast protection on my helmet, we're not as likely to need that in the nether. So we're going to get fire protection on here since I don't have it on any of my other bits of armor. So yeah, I think it's just these three enchantments. Very simple, and we won't miss the Aqua Infinity and the Respiration when we're in the nether, of course. And Impulse has got his anvils over here, which reminds me the way to do this is to swap the books around until you get the cheapest enchantment level, like so. So that one's 8 and this one is 3, and that's what we want to put on the helmet. Doomguy's Golden Helm. I'm always just so creative with the names, right? Anyway, this will be good for us venturing on into the nether, which we'll do later in this episode. As of right now, though, I want to talk about what I've been up to on the server, because I have indeed been rather busy. So I needed a lot of sandstone to finish our kelp farm, and some beautiful hermit had been out there in the desert mining away all the sand and leaving the sandstone behind for me, which was just perfect. I also went caving searching for an amethyst geode, which I eventually found, and I needed two things from this. One of them was the amethyst so I could make tinted glass, which we'll make use of later in the episode. And the other thing is I wanted all of the calcite, as we're going to add it to our build palette over at the kelp farm. And you can actually see it here just behind the crimson trapdoors. It's very subtle, but it fits in well. And yes, this is what the kelp farm looks like when it's finished. I think I mentioned before that I did this in a live stream, like building the whole thing. So a lot of you already know what it would look like. But there it is, finished, finally built on Hermitcraft. And I am talking about all of the interiors too. As you can see up the top here, everything's finished, all of the redstone is in place, and the farm is basically ready to go. And I know this place probably doesn't look any different, but down here at the bottom of the kelp farm, I've lowered everything down by 2 blocks, including the flying machines, which fixed a very critical issue that we had with the farm. So to figure out what was going on, I created a world full of nothing but water to conduct some testing in. I also sped up the game tick so you can see the kelp here grows really fast when we place it down. Now, not all of these will grow to the same level, because when you place it, it gets a random age value, and the higher that is, the lower the kelp plant can grow in total. But then when we go and break it, that gets reset. And depending on where you break it, it resets it at that point. So if I come over here and break this one, it'll keep growing. That looks like it got a low number, so I'll break it again. Come on. There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. You see, it keeps going up and up and up and up. And that's why we had to lower the flying machine, because my calculations were based on where it was placed on the ground, but of course the flying machine will come through and break it a block higher up. And someone always has some comment about how you're wrong, so let's go ahead and break that. You can see if we break it with a honey block, the same effect happens. So I want to talk a little bit about how we're going to use the kelp, and I also just want to say thanks for the feedback on this path. Like, I got so many really positive comments about it. I was quite surprised. I knew this looked good, but I didn't expect y'all to enjoy it that much. Anyways, inside our base we have this little room where I threw in some furnaces in the last episode, I think, and I've also added this now as well, just so I can chuck a bunch of stuff in here and have it all smelted and dropped into the bottom. But what I've actually been using as our fuel source is the dried kelp blocks. Now obviously that's why we're getting all of this kelp together, right? But isn't it a shame that you can't use this as a fuel source? Let me just show you. You can't drop in the dried kelp, you have to actually craft it into the block. If we could use this directly, it means that the whole smelting operation could be like fully automated, which would be so cool. But I will have to step in, and as you saw a moment ago, I'm going to have to craft the fuel for our smelter array from the kelp. And of course what we're going to use to smelt the kelp in the first place is the dried kelp block. If you watched Season 6 of Hermitcraft, this was something that we did on a massive industrial scale, and it was a lot of fun. This won't be quite as big of an operation, but it will certainly be fun, and there's something that I need to show you that's kind of hidden inside of this tower over here. So before I actually built this thing, I put a whole bunch of observers linked together heading up to the top of the building. So you probably noticed that there are a couple pointing in odd directions, and everything you see here actually works. We can put rails over the top, and what it's doing is essentially like wrapping it around into this block here, which then powers the fence gate and drops the hopper minecart down. So down here at the bottom of the farm we can activate it, and we can do that automatically with some redstone and whatnot. What we have to do is just simply update this observer. So I want to capture the action with my camera account, and what I've just done might send up 2 signals, but that doesn't really matter. You can see here the minecart hopper does not behave like it did in our test world. On a server it moves more like a regular minecart. Why is this game so inconsistent? Fortunately it does actually make it the whole way around, but it is quite concerning. So I added a button down here on the side, but powering a block directly doesn't set off the observers, so I fixed that, and this redstone line is here more as a concept to show you why this is down here. The items are going to drop down, collect into a hopper, and we can set up the redstone so that when the items finish coming from above, it can then send out a signal to send the minecart hopper around on another lap. In fact, let's set off the farm right now, because you're going to see that we have another big problem. Something that once again I didn't think about, but fortunately I've got a solution for this as well. So I was going to show you the farm in full action, but we actually only had a small amount of kelp inside of the tank, so the hopper minecart didn't get filled up. But when I did a harvest earlier, I got like this much kelp out of the whole thing, which is absolutely bonkers. And that's when I realized that it takes a long time for the hopper minecart to unload the items, and each time it goes around, the kelp is probably going to despawn because we're not picking up the items quick enough. Now this is where I think we can turn a negative into a positive and do away with all that janky redstone up in the attic. This idea would also mean that we wouldn't have like a really odd side like this one, and that 3 of the sides would look normal, which is like this one. Anyways, what I envision is some sort of slope coming out of the side of this, some pillars holding up some minecart rails that take it over to the smeltery building, and it's over here that we could have an army of hopper minecarts ready to go so that they would be able to pick up a full batch of kelp together. This would simplify what goes on in the attic. Our little army gets sent out, they do a lap, they come back and they've got everything. But then it would create a really cool redstone challenge inside of our furnace array building, where we have to create some redstone for sending out all the hopper minecarts and then unloading them when they get back and getting them ready to be sent out again. Now this means that we need another big building here with lots of space for this minecart system, the furnace array. It means that this project is still not finished, and I am fine with that. I've really been enjoying just taking things at a casual pace, not always trying to get to the end result so quickly. It's been really fun to put all of this together, but now we're going to take it to the next level and do something different, which I think is going to be cool in the long run. And in the short term, you know, this will provide us with plenty of fuel as well. So for the next part of this video, let's turn our attention back to the golden helmet and the netherite grind. For I, my friends, have been redstoning in preparation, and we are going to need some wheat from over here. And then to travel not so far, in fact just to the end of this road, down to Beef's area. For here he has a sheep farm and also a couple of sheeps penned up for breeding, which we're going to take advantage of. So I'm going to leave the baby behind, snag one of the adults. The baby will instinctively follow it. And I think I got very lucky there. Let's just make sure. Yeah, I think you're actually inside of the block. Aha, there we go. So what I wish to do is create my own passive source of wall inside of my base. And we're trying to be very considerate of other hermits while we live together, which is why these projects tend to be small scale and don't involve a lot of entities. So we're just going to take the one sheep. And I've already engineered our little redstone farm and constructed it down here. I did not 100% think about how I'm going to get the sheep in though. I'm going to bank on having a little bit of luck here. Gonna bring you along. No, you fell down. Okay, I think I got this time. Come on. No, this way. Yeah, I think I might just need to drop down here into this hole. I've trapped myself, but I got the sheep in there. Alright, so an issue with this is that I need to put the dispenser back. That shouldn't be too difficult if I've got a block up at this height. I can, yeah, stand here, put that there, and it faces downwards. And this, believe it or not, my friends, is going to be our passive sheep farm. We need water in that dispenser, shears in this one, and now it is officially up and running, and it will slowly collect some wool into this chest over time. And this was just how I left this area. So one of the things we'll be doing next is probably reshaping this staircase, decorating the area so that we can kind of walk into the area, access not only this chest but the ones on either side from our bee farm too. But before we do any of that, I want to go over how I came up with this little design down there, which you haven't really fully seen yet. So when you've only got one sheep, you might be thinking you just need one block for it to be on, but there's a mechanic here that I wanted to take advantage of. So this sheep, although fully pushed over to the side where the trapdoor is, its hitbox is still inside of this block. Aha! And you can see that we can actually shear it from either of the places. So this should increase the efficiency of the farm, but by how much I'm not entirely sure, but it's got to be better than just one block. Now when we remove the trapdoors on either side at the bottom, that'll allow it to actually move back and forth between the two blocks as well, which is really important. And when the grass gets eaten or it regrows, it'll create a pulse, and it doesn't really matter if the sheep is actually shearable or not. It'll just activate this up here. So from that, what I then needed was a collection system, and I thought this is kind of another entity in the world. It just goes back and forth making a lot of noise. Maybe I can come up with something better. And so I decided, why don't we use water to move the items out of the system? This also raises the collection area, which was convenient for the space that we were building in. And this is the whole design. And this bit is probably the most important because it powers a dispenser of water bucket twice. So let's simulate the grass getting eaten. There you go. And I've also tested the water there. It will successfully flush out all of the items in that space into this hopper. Now, to give you a refresher on how grass spreading works, so this block here would be able to regrow if it were dirt from any of these glass blocks around it. So the reason it looks like this is to maximize the grass growth in the middle. So we sacrifice 2 blocks over here for the observers, that's essential, and then up here we sacrifice another one because if we power this thing directly through one means or another, unfortunately it activates this trapdoor, which is no good for the sheep inside. And so on the server, for the sake of vanity and symmetry, I've gone and put another block on that side and even removed the dirt entirely and put sandstone there. And thanks to going over the design again, I realized that I missed a block. We need this here. That is essential. Also, you have eaten some dirt, which means... we haven't actually got anything in there yet. And that's because I've also missed a piece of redstone right here. That should be everything that we need now, I hope. In fact, we could just give it our own little test, since it's regrown its wall. And the water behaves differently than in my testing world. Let's try that again, shall we? It's kind of getting caught on the sheep itself. Oh, and there it goes another time. Right. I did not actually test that. It just activated again and pushed everything out of there. It could be that this thing's fast enough that the items will sort of linger for a bit, but get pushed out. I think I'll just keep an eye on it and see how we do. But now we've got a passive income of wool. And what do we need this for? Beds in the nether dimension. So the last time that we did this, I think, was Season 7, which was actually in the 1.16 update, when ancient debris and netherite was introduced to the game. So it's been some time. Last season was a short season, and I basically didn't bother to upgrade my diamond tools as I remember it. But anyway, I decided to get down there to the bottom of the world, use the beds to blow up lots of netherrack and look for the ancient debris, and I spent about 2 hours in total looking for this ancient debris. Now, I have guesstimated because I forgot to keep track, but I think it's pretty accurate. I reckon I used about 110 beds and got myself 28 ancient debris as a result of that, which is fantastic. We're going to go up here and smelt all of that, of course. And while I was doing that, I actually had to leave the nether a couple of times to repair my helmet, of all things. And this is something that I didn't consider when it comes to being in the nether, is that the helmet doesn't have a lot of durability, only 77 points, and every time I blew up a bed, it took 2 points of damage. So maybe if you're considering your own piece of gold armor, maybe go with a chest plate if it's going to take a lot of damage. So 28 divides down to just 7 netherite ingots. We can't even make a netherite block, and I've already got this thing over here so we can upgrade. And the question is now, what exactly are we going to upgrade? So I think it's a no-brainer to upgrade all of our armor and keep us extra safe. Then as for the other 3, I'm going to put them on these 3 tools. The pick and the shovel I use a lot. And the hoe, well, I just want that serious dedication, you know. And save the best for last. There it is. Awesome. Let's put this on as well. Look at me. Looking snazzy. Now, while we're in this place, there is something else that I would like to show you. First of all, though, I just want to grab a little bit of tinted glass. Awesome. And then we're going to head down here because the area below has been overhauled. Except I haven't fixed this space right here, which I'm not sure if I'm going to use for anything or not. You can get an idea, though, of what I've been up to. I've been experimenting with organic interiors where all of the walls don't specifically line up and the roof is actually a blend of multiple shades of wood going from one side to the other. It wasn't a fully thought through concept, but it was just something I wanted to experiment with, and I think the end result is definitely interesting. We've got deep slate walls with candles, the lighting in here is kind of gloomy and whatnot. Around the back we've actually got some, well, bone meal recycling, I guess you could call it. So when we activate our farms, we obviously get tons and tons of items. We actually get them really quick. That was just on for a moment, and look at that. Whole bunch of stuff already. Same over here. And then for anything that I don't want, I can just pop it up into here, and the chest is hooked up to some composters, and then we get some bone meal back. Now, can you guess where the tinted glass is going to go? The one thing that really sticks out in this room is this glass, so we're going to swap it over. And as soon as I place it, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I tested this, and it turns it to netherrack, which is no good. We can use some black stained glass here instead, I guess. And on the opposite side, where the tinted glass will go, it will stop the light coming through. It doesn't really stop you from seeing the stone, which isn't too great. I'll probably just leave it like that. But I'm kind of wondering what happens when the farm is active. It might actually turn some of it back to netherrack. It probably can. It's probably like a very slim chance that it happens while the farm is active. So if ever it does, I guess I'll just swap it over for black glass. Anyway, that's this project down here. Leave a comment, let me know what you think of this build, because yeah, I really tried to do something different with this room, and I kind of did it without a plan. I do feel like you need to have some intent and purpose behind the way you build when you do it like this. Yes, that stuff is important, and going forward as a builder, I do need to incorporate some more sort of lore and sense making into the builds, and that's not what we're going on back here. So if you remember, I needed to finish up where the sheep farm was, and believe it or not, this took me over an hour. I just had some sort of weird builder's block, and that's probably because there wasn't a lot to do here other than just fill in the space with sandstone, so it doesn't look terribly interesting. But I've actually been able to hide quite a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. I've been able to put backward stairs on top of the grass so it doesn't convert into dirt. That means this can still spread to the center. And down the bottom here, I've been able to kind of tidy up every little area you could see into the backspace. So apart from the stone over here, it all looks pretty decent, if you ask me. We have access to these chests which have the honeycomb and honey bottles, and of course we've got the wall down here, and it's still been pumping this stuff out. And the farm that I have planned for the area up top, I don't know how the storage is going to work for that, but it's probably just going to be like a floating chest that you come up here and access. It's going to be real weird, and I'm hoping that we get started on that in the next episode. And I think one of the reasons it took me so long is because I also bumped into Scar and we ended up talking for ages as well. He gave me some cookies and I picked them up and I was like, what are you talking about? These are biscuits. This is one of the English language pack quirks. Anyways, they are scrumptious, and that was not there before. Scar has himself a beacon. And if you look in the surrounding area, like, at a certain point in the season, you just start seeing beacon beams go up into the sky everywhere. It's actually kind of nice not to have that this early on. And something else I wanted to address is that there is this over here, an April Fool's pranking event on the server, and me, I'm not really a prankster, so I'm not going to be partaking, and I know that I'm going to get tons of comments about it, so now you know. I've also discovered who the author of this fine vessel is. It's the Rendiggity Dog who built this, and he has named the lake out here the Hermissippi, which I think is a great name for it. I do love this server, and I love that we're all close and you get to just see the world around you evolve as you go. Like this over here, I believe these are trees. When I first saw it, I thought it might be like a secret parkour course, jumping from block to block. Anyways, it would seem that I am in a state of perpetual distraction, unable to wrap up the episode at the moment. And so to get you excited for the future, I've got some projects in the works around here, but I'm also planning to do some new projects with Corrales in a totally different area. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure you're subscribed and leave a like if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching this episode of Hermitcraft, and I'll see you soon with another. Bye-bye.